Hello and welcome to part 3 of my series on Rudiments. My name is Greg Williamson and I'm a professional jazz drummer. I play a lot of shows. I was trained as a classical musician, even did some work with symphonies for a period. I do have a master's degree in percussion performance and jazz pedagogy, which is the teaching of jazz. And I am doing a series here on rudiments. Rudiments are the basic element of drum playing. They're somewhat similar to a trumpet player learning scales on his instrument. So here are the rudiments we're going to cover right now in this session. The Flam Tap, the Flam Accent, which are all really useful, the Ruff or the drag, and the Ratamacue and the triple Ratamacue, which use ruffs also. When I was a student, we called them ruffs. I see that a lot of people in books that know a lot more than I do call them a drag. So we'll get to that here in a second. But let's start off with the Flam. So the Flam is basically a single stroke with an added grace note to the beginning. So my main note is going to be my left hand here. To that I'm going to add a grace note to the beginning. Very quiet grace note right in front of the main note. On drums, this is easy to replicate or to manufacture if you start with your right hand really low, the grace note hand really low next to the drum, main note is high, and we drop both hands at the same time. So the right hand, in this case, grace note hand, this is a really small movement, and the left hand or the main note, large normal sized stroke. Now the tricky part gets to be where what comes next. Do we want to leave the grace note hand down low, or is it going to switch? So after the grace note tap, the small note, whoops, do we switch or do we stay? Stay or switch. So the rudiment way to do a flam is to alternate. So we're going to switch. Start slow, speed up, and slow back down. Here's the flam. So that's the flam. And so the tricky part with this one is after one hit, the grace note hand comes up and prepares for the next hit high. Some drum corps guys talk about a downstroke where you throw the stick down and it stays down, which is really what happens with this. So it could be thought of as a downstroke. I don't like the word downstroke though, because it seems to emphasize playing into the drum. And I want to emphasize letting the stick bounce out of the drum. So we could call it a low stroke, you can call it a downstroke if you want. So that big note becomes the next small note. Okay, the first variation on flams is called the Flam Tap. And it goes like this. So there's an extra tap after the flam, and it's the downstroke, or leaving the stick low after the grace note. And again, be careful of the simultaneous hit, and you don't want it too far apart. That's maybe too far apart. A nice flam, close together. So here's the Flam Tap, slow to fast to slow. All right, so that's the Flam Tap. The next Flam variation is the Flam Accent, which I think of as a Flam triplet. And again, the last note before the grace note stays down. Stays down. Right stays down, and it's the grace note for the next one. So you end up with two rights or two lefts in a row, considering the grace note that's going to follow. All right, so that's the Flam Accent, or as I think of it, the Flam triplet. Okay, next in this line of thinking is the Ruff, or the drag, which is two notes on a grace note. Same idea, grace note hand stays low, but we let it bounce now. We let the grace notes bounce. Left hand, two grace notes. So this, I learned it as the Ruff, R-U-F-F. Some books list this as the drag. It kind of depends what you're going to do with it afterwards, whether you're in orchestral music or whether you're doing rudiments for competition, something like that. And then there's different things that come after that, which are the Ratamacue and the triple Ratamacue. So here's a Ruff with the two grace notes. And just like the Flam, the rudiment for the Ruff alternates. Okay, so that's the Ruff, or the drag. The Ratamacue is an interesting and fun variation. Sounds like it speaks. Ratamacue, Ratamacue. The next variation is called the triple Ratamacue. It's three Ruffs in a row, and the third one has the Ratamacue triplet with the following note. So here is the triple Ratamacue. A one, a two, a Ratamacue. So then if you're doing it as a rudiment, you would alternate sticks, start with the right hand after starting with the left. And that's the triple Ratamacue. Fun way to use that in conjunction with the regular Ratamacue. Sounds like a John Philip Sousa march or something. Okay, so there we go. That's my take on rudiments. Again, I was not trained as a rudimental player. I learned them when I was a student, when I was a kid. Was pretty good at them, so I didn't spend a lot of time at it. But as I progressed and got better at music and wanted to play more and more consistently and have a better sound all the time, and to be able to play with other musicians, especially in a professional setting, I learned that I needed to get these things down. There are more rudiments. Started with the 13 essential rudiments, then they added 13 more for 26, and now there are lots of rudiments. There's paraflaflas and floopy hoopy doos, and squishy squirmy squeeze. Squishy squirmy squeeze. That's a real rudiment. No, it's not. I'm joking. Anyway, there's a lot more. You can really dig into this if you want, but I think these are the 9 or so that will get you going. All right. See you next time.